Are you going to be running it a minute before it goes on like you normally do with me sitting here? Flash once for yes. Okay. Thinking about sitting here reading this magazine? What do you think about that? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I am your host, Joe Abadi. Happy New Year to you all. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie, for helping me put the show together. And most of all, thank you at home who've tuned in tonight to see the show. Jordan, let's get down to the starting line, which is, of course, brought to us by Motion Pro. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the show tonight. In the next time, try this segment. I've got a great little tip for you for putting on grips. In the Moto Showcase, a 1974 Honda CR250 Elsinore, everybody's favorite bike, all original. Wait till you see this. In the Here's the Problem segment, we're going to be talking about removing paint from a swing arm. Some people think it's anodizing. We're going to have a little discussion about that a little bit later in the show. Oh, what's it worth segment? 1973 Bultaco 350, another original bike. Wait till you see the price on this. The expansion chamber, Fritz Gunther, steps up to the plate this week. Send us in a great tip about when you're boring a bike, how to check the piston. You're going to see it a little bit later on in the show, and we're going to tell you how you can get involved in the expansion chamber. Trivia is back. It's the first of the month, and Keith Geisner has once again supplied us with that great book. You won an award with this book, Finding Number 49. Stick around for the trivia question. Somebody's going to win that book tonight. If you're watching the show on Facebook, please share it with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, Don't forget to share it there too. The YouTube channel is doing really, really well, but we need a few more subscribers. So if you can get over to YouTube, subscribe to our channel, that would be great. You can see all 61 shows that we've done here for Vintage Motocross Q&A, and you can hear over 35 interviews that we've done at Vintage Motocross Radio. If you subscribe, you get a little alert like that. You'll know when we're live on the air. That's when the action starts. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Amsoil, Vinco, Full Circle Racing, Preston Petty Products, and of course, Major League Motoring. That's Jordan's company who helps put this whole show together. So I do want to thank Jordan and all the other sponsors who were involved.
In tonight's Next Time Try This segment, which is brought to you by Vinco, I want to show you a simple tip that I've been using for years. It's never failed me. How to install a grip. Sounds simple? It is. You can do it with something like this. You'll need a little brake clean, some regular spray paint like this, and a paper towel. First thing you're going to want to do is clean this section of your handlebar. Make sure it doesn't have any grease or glue on it from a previous grip. I like to use a little brake clean from Amsoil. Looks just like that. I wipe it down, get it nice and clean. Now, if you really wanted to, if your bars are painted, you want to make sure that there's not any paint in the area where you're going to put that grip on there. The next thing you want to do is take some spray paint. It could be any color. I prefer black because the grip is black, and I also put a glove on so I don't get any paint on my hand while I'm doing this. You spray some in there just like that, and you move it around a little. If you get a little on there, you could just wipe it off with that brake clean. You just move it around a little bit in there like that so you make sure you get it all in there, and that thing is going to slip on just like this. Now, in some cases where a grip may twist like that or something, you could always straighten it out with the paint. If you want to, you could pull up the end a little bit, put a little compressed air in there, or just let it dry. And that's it. I've never had a grip failure. I've never had a grip come off my bike after doing that. It's just as good on the handlebar side and as it is on the side with the throttle. The other good news is when you want to get the grips off, you could either just cut them off and you're not going to have any glue left on there, or you could spray a little brake clean in there and they're going to come right off again. That's it for tonight's Next Time Try This segment. I want to thank Vinco for being a sponsor of the segment. Vinco, keep the ride going.
I want to mention about that segment, you saw those bars were black. They were black anodized. That's why I didn't remove any of the paint, because it wasn't paint. If you have paint on your bars, you might want to sand that off a little bit, and you can use the same method I just told you about right there. Works every time like a charm. I've been doing it for years. The Moto Showcase is brought to you tonight by Preston Petty Products, and Dwayne Butch Sangaroth has sent in this beautiful little 1974 Honda CR250 to us. It's an all-original bike. I'm going to tell you about it as Jordan goes through the slides. Joe, I'm excited to have my bike on your show this week. The bike came up on Craigslist 3 years ago. I went and purchased the bike after asking the seller to send me 50 close-up pictures. He looked the pictures over really well. I did a bonsai trip to Dallas, and I bought the bike that night. I met him on Saturday morning. He fired the bike up. Everything went perfectly. It ran spectacular. I paid $4,700 for it. The tires are original. The seat pan is barely dented. The pipe has a few minor little marks on it. Other than that, that was a deal maker for me. I knew I wanted the bike. I believe the chain and sprockets are also original. It runs great, but it's mostly a display bike. It's a very high serial number for 1974. I took it to Barbers and Mid-Ohio 2 years ago. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people asked me if they could ride it, especially the older guys wanted to hear it run. I met a few knowledgeable guys along the way through this trip, and at Mid-Ohio, I met Bill Naselrod, a very knowledgeable guy. The guy knows his stuff, and he posted this bike on Facebook. I had no idea that it was Bill that I had met in Mid-Ohio so many years before. Now, the bike is spectacular. I love to show it. Everyone loves to see it. I enjoy sharing it mostly with younger guys who many times don't know what it is, but they just find the bike to be priceless. I'm going to bring it to Daytona this year with 5 other vintage bikes. I've got some grandsons. They want to get involved, and we're all going to have a great time on our old vintage bikes. Joe, thanks again for having our bike on the show. I'm starting another one as we speak. I'll send it in when it's done. Thanks, Butch. Well, thank you, Butch, for sending us that bike. And if you get me your address, I'm going to get you a nice little gift, compliments of Preston Petty Products. But John Groth, thanks so much for sending that bike into us for the Moto Showcase. Preston Petty, you know all about it. They've been around forever, and Paul Standard brought them back a few years ago. They've got all the great fenders and grips and all sorts of wonderful stuff that we've all loved from when we were kids. So when you get a moment, go visit Preston Petty Products online. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. Of course, they have a fabulous website. And now and again, well, almost every week throughout the year, we've had some Preston Petty specials going on, and we're going to be working with Paul Standard closely on getting some new ones here on the show. So thank you, Paul Standard and Preston Petty, for all you do. And here's the problem segment, which is sponsored by Motion Pro. We're going to take a look at a couple of questions some people have sent in and see if we can't help them out. What do we got first, Jordan? J.E. You know, you didn't send me your name here, J.E. I mean, it could be Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. You know, well, enough with the Jeffrey Epstein thing, right? Anyway, J.E. wants to know what coolant works best in slowing down corrosion in the early 80s Elsinores. I'm getting conflicting information on the internet. Now, also, any suggestions on prescription goggles? I'm having difficulty wearing glasses with my goggles. Okay, first things first, J.E. Number one, it doesn't matter what coolant you use in your early 80s bikes when they have magnesium covers like this. They're all going to corrode. And here's what it says in the manual, and you've heard me talk about it here many, many times before. Jordan, next slide. It doesn't matter if you use any of these Prestone, Motorcraft, Xerox, it doesn't matter. And there's one called waterless coolant. All of it doesn't matter. You have to drain the case when you're done riding that bike. That's what it says in the manual. I know people that are on the original magnesium cases on these early 80s Elsinores. They haven't corroded, they haven't rotted, there hasn't been any problem with them. If you want to replace it and you do have a rotten case, it's going to cost you probably $500 to get a replica made. There's a guy that makes them. There was somebody in Australia that was doing it, but it's about $500. If you have one that doesn't leak now, drain it. You drain it when you're done riding. You could put like a Gatorade jar underneath there, Gatorade bottle, drain it out. When you're ready to ride the bike again, fill the radiator back up, go on your merry way. When you come back, you drain it again when you're going to store the bike. I talked to Keith Linus about this, a very, very knowledgeable guy on this subject. There is an electric current that runs through your bike even when the bike is off, and that's what causes this whole electrolysis thing going on, which rots out that area there in your water pump. So, doesn't matter. It could be the latest, greatest coolant that everybody's using. That's not where the problem is. It needs to be drained, just like it said in the manual almost 40 years ago. And that's my tip on that. The next thing you want to do, and I am an eyeglass wearer as well, you can go get prescription goggles, but I wouldn't recommend it for motocross racing. Maybe off-road, but even then it depends. You're going to spend a lot of money on a pair of prescription goggles. You're going to go out to a race. They're going to get mud on them just like any other goggle. Not really worth the money, and it's going to be an expensive lesson. I wear contact lenses when I ride. Sometimes I only wear one because my eyes are, well, as I'm getting older, I can't see close or far without some type of glasses on. So what I'll do sometimes is wear just one. So when I'm riding, I can see far. But if I get back into the pit and I've got to take a look at something, my other eye focuses that doesn't have a contact lens in it. So my advice to you would be to get a pair of contact lenses. Get fitted for them. You're going to love them when you ride. Thanks, J.E. Steve Schmidt, I want to refinish the swing arm on my 1978 YZ125. It seems like paint, but it's extremely tough to remove. Is it possibly anodized? No, Steve, it's not anodized. From 1981 down to 1978, they are painted, but I have tried to remove paint on these before, and they are a son of a gun to get the paint off. The paint comes off, but there's some kind of a primer underneath there that is just bonded to that aluminum, and I've never seen anything stronger on any paint that I've ever seen or tried to remove. So it can come off. You need a stripper or you need to sand a lot of it away. It's not anodized. Anodizing didn't begin until 1982. You could see it there on that YZ125. It's not anodizing, it's paint. It's a pain to get off, but it does come off. You just need to really, really work at that. Thanks for the question, Steve. Jeremy Gross, I followed your advice on the VHT high heat case paint. It worked out great and seems very durable. Would you suggest it for frames too? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't suggest any paint out of a can for a frame. Now, this VHT case paint and the roll bar paint, and they also make one for brake calipers. You can use on pipes. It's a beautiful match. The satin black is very, very close, if not dead on, really, I think, to what you would get on the original equipment back in the day. Now, what I would recommend, if you really want to spray it out of a can, you're going to have to go to an auto body supply place and buy a can aerosol, which paint does come in that, but it has a hardener in it. On the bottom of the can, you press this button, the hardener mixes up with it. You only have so much time to use it. You can do it that way. If not, I would recommend having it sprayed at a body shop, black enamel, and be done with it with a good primer underneath. There's a step before all that, regardless of what paint you use, that I want to strongly recommend, and that's having that frame sandblasted. So many of these bikes, they're getting really, really old. Some have laid outside for many, many years. Water gets down into the tubing, and in this case right here, and I just saw this on Facebook the other day, there's a guy that sandblasted his frame. He was getting ready to paint it, and you could see where it's rotted right through. So all the best paint in the world and all the prime and everything else isn't going to amount to anything if you've got a frame that you haven't inspected carefully after a good sandblasting. So that's my recommendation, Steve, is to have that thing sandblasted before you do anything, and then figure out what paint you want to use. Should you use paint, an aerosol paint out of a can, as good as VHT is? No, I wouldn't recommend it. Get yourself enamel out of a spray gun and have somebody do it. Or, powder coating is really a great way to go too when it comes to race bikes. That'd be my advice on that. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. We'll be back right after this message.
Hi, I'm Jeff with Motion Pro, here to introduce you to the Pro Funnel today. Now the Pro Funnel is a very versatile funnel that makes maintenance tasks on your motorcycle easier, cleaner, and more efficient. Now as an overview, the Pro Funnel has a 1 liter capacity with clear graduation marks listed in ounces, cc's, as well as all the common premix ratios used for two-strokes in the power sports industry. Now diving into the key features of the Pro Funnel, first you have this integrated shutoff valve, which allows you to shut off or meter out the flow of fluid. This ball joint and extended spout allows you to get into tight areas. A powerful magnetic strip is convenient for storage on your toolbox or workbench. And this removable lid keeps dirt and debris out of the funnel. The Pro Funnel has a retail price of $32.99 and can be found at your preferred dealer nationwide, so go get yours today.
Thanks, Motion Pro. We've got a lot of great products there. We have a new segment that's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. It is called the Garage Tour. And what we're going to do is we're going to have you people call in with your phone out in your man cave, your garage, wherever you may be, and we're going to have a look at your collection live on the show. Now, don't call in if you just have one bike or maybe two bikes, but if you've got a few bikes and a lot of gear like this guy has with some collectible jerseys and helmets, we would love to see it. We will have it on the show. We're going to have you walk around. I'll be asking questions if I see something interesting in your shop, and we're going to have a little conversation about that. We'll maybe have you on the phone for 3 or 4 minutes, and as you're moving that phone around your shop, we're going to get a look at what you got inside and have some dialogue about that. So either on Vintage Motocross Q&A's Facebook page tomorrow or in the next day or so, look for an announcement there. We're going to have this new segment coming up, and we think we're going to call it the Garage Tour. So Jordan put this little thing together with Andrea Fontanelli. Great little collection there with a Galera, some jerseys, some helmets, and we got a good look at what was going on. So be on the lookout for the new segment. We want you to be part of the show. In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we take a look at a 1973 Bultaco 250, an original bike that was recently sold on eBay for $3,750. It was sold on October 29th, 2020. I'm going to read about it. Jordan's going to slip through these slides, and it's a 73 Bultaco MK5 350. It is a time capsule. I've owned this bike for 20 years. It was part of a larger collection, mostly from the 60s era. The bike's in excellent mechanical condition with virtually unused condition when I got it. The bike remains in original condition with original factory parts still attached. The bike has the original resin fiberglass fenders, front and rear, and they include the Persang decal. There's one small hairline crack in one of them. You can see it in the photos. It also has the original side panel plates. The seat is original with original vinyl leather. No holes, no tears. The knobbies on the bike, I believe, are original too. It's got the original paint, the cables, the original Bultaco logo on the hand grips. the Bultaco on the gas cap. The Kickstarter rubber is Bultaco branded as well. It's all original, and the Acheron rims have the yellow labels on them. There's no sign of any tire changes. At this time of this ad, no attempt has been made to repaint the bike or replace any parts, and I decided to sell it as is. And it did sell for $3,750. That is a beautiful little bike from 1973. The big bore Bultaco for $3,750, and I don't think that bike should be restored. It looks like a survivor. I would gently clean it, maybe take off some of that rust that's on there, but that bike looked like a really great deal for $3,750. Harder and harder to find stuff that's original these days and complete. $3,750 I thought was a great deal. If you want to know the value of your bike, you could always join us on Facebook at Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide. With over 16,000 members, this page is over 6 years old. Every week, a couple of guys drop in there. They put some bikes up. We discuss the values on them only. There's no buying, there's no selling, there's no trading. Just a bunch of educated guys who are talking about the values of bikes. I've also got dozens of albums in there from past sales at auctions and also private sales, also eBay sales, where we do a comparison. So please join us at the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page on Facebook. Trivia is here. So get ready, get your phone ready. Somebody is going to win. No, they're not going to win the bike, Jordan. They're going to win the book. Yep, that's it. I'm not giving away any more bikes this year. I gave away a bike a couple of weeks ago. The first one to call in with the correct answer is going to win this book that is compliments of Keith Geisner, finding number 49. And the question is, drum roll please, who gave Husqvarna their first Supercross championship? Their first. Who gave Husqvarna their first Supercross championship? The first person to call in, 925-234-8181, will win the book. You got to call in, live audience only. If you're watching this in a replay, don't call in. Live audience only, 925-234-8181. Susie standing by with your answer. Who gave Husqvarna their Supercross championship? Their first one. The Expansion Chamber, a new segment of the show. It is sponsored by Full Circle Racing. And this week we have a video from Fritz Gunther. Fritz has got a great little tip for us here. After we take a look at it, I'm going to tell you how you can get more involved with the Expansion Chamber, because we want to see your videos too. Jordan, let's take a look at Fritz's video this week.
Hey Joe, here's a quick tech tip for your viewers. When you get your cylinder back from being bored to the next oversize, if you don't have the inside and outside mics to measure the clearance yourself, a real quick check that you can do is put your cylinder on something, a flat surface that's going to seal the top of it. Take your piston, fit it in the bore. Of course, if it doesn't go in the bore, that's a problem. And what you're looking for is when you drop it, it's going to hit this air cushion and ride it on down, like that. If it drops through and goes clunk at the bottom, clearance is probably a little too large. And once again, if it doesn't go in the bore, that's a problem too. You want to take it back and get somebody to measure it up. So, hope this helps. Bye.
I like the tip, Fritz, and I also think it's a great tip for guys out there who are not sure whether they should go to the next size up on their cylinder or not. You can take the rings off your piston, do that little tip that Fritz just said right there. If it rides down the air cushion, you know you're good. If not, you need to get that thing inspected and probably have it bored, or at least have it inspected, see what's going on there. Now, I know from past experience that usually it's 4 thousandths per inch. It's 4 thousandths of an inch for every inch of bore that you have. So if you have like a 2-inch bore in your bike, or 4-inch, it would be 8 thousandths. But for every inch, it's supposed to be 4 thousandths is what it is. Anyway, it's a great tip from Fritz, and I'd like everybody to get involved in this if you'd like to. This is a great way for you to also showcase your business. So if there are guys out there like my friend Woody's GP Products, I'm waiting for some videos from him. If you have a business or you just have some tips. But if you have a business, this is a great way for you to get some publicity on the show. We're reaching a lot of people every week. You could send in a video just about that long, 2 minutes or so, and we'll be happy to put it here in the Expansion Chamber. We did one last week from Robert Oscar Pomeroy, this week from Fritz Gunther, and we've got another one coming up next week. So inbox me and I'll tell you exactly what you need to do, and we'd love to see some videos from you. Thanks again, Fritz.
Hey Joe.
Let's segment is, of course, sponsored by Full Circle Racing. Tom McAllister still running a great special up there. Free shipping on rims and spokes for all popular brands, Mako CZ, Honda Husky, and Mako. Yamaha, too. So get a hold of Tom McAllister. He's also got a great special going on for hubs. He'll bead blast them. He'll powder coat them for just $50 a hub in flat black or gloss black for just a few bucks more. He'll do it in a custom color. For just $10 more, he'll do the brake plate too. So between the free shipping on the spokes and the rims and just $50 for getting your hubs up to him, you get a whole new set of wheels back from Full Circle Racing. And that's both vintage and modern. So get a hold of Tom McAllister. Tom, we appreciate all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. And I've got some rims up there at Full Circle Racing right now. Looking forward to getting them back. Thanks, Tom. The product spotlight this week is brought to you by Vinco, and they've got a great little product right here for you OSA owners. It is an IRZ carb rubber intake spacer. It's good for the Mick Andrews replica, the Stilettos, the Pioneers, and the Explorers 70 through 75. It's just $12.95, and it's for the small, thin 6-day replica, the Pioneer, and the Mar barrel. Now, if you have AML-equipped SDRs, you got to use the spigot-style manifold. He's got the part number here, so Vinco's got that available for you too. And Vinco, I mean, keep the ride going with over 650 products in their catalog, but this is a great little item, the OSA IRZ carb rubber intake spacer. Thanks, Vinco, for all you do. And Susie has joined me with her magic phone, probably to tell me about having someone on the phone.
And you have Mike there.
Is he on speaker?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Joe.
Mike, who am I speaking with? Mike who?
Mike Myrna.
Mike Myrna, how are you, friend?
Doing good, Joe. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Oh, my God. You sound very excited. I think you should have your own show.
Oh, you're the best.
Oh, I try. Hey, Mike, tell me something. Who gave Husqvarna their first Supercross championship?
It was Gary Semix in
Gary.
1974.
That's right, Gary Semix in 1974, and you are the winner. You did get it correct. Gary was, of course, my guest last Sunday on Vintage Motocross Radio. I want to thank you for calling in, Mike. We're going to get you a great gift, compliments of Preston Petty products. Going to put Susie back on. She's going to get your, she's got your address already?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to hand the phone back to Susie. Thank you for calling in, Mike, and we're going to get something out to you in the next day or so, okay?
Thanks, Joe. Love the show.
Thank you. Thanks, honey.
Okay.
You want to leave me a note?
I do.
What's the note? All right, that's it for the trivia winner. The answer was Gary Semix. We went over the Vinco product, the IRZ intake space rubber. Jordan, what do we got next coming up here? A commercial break, and then after that, we're going to have tonight's trivia winner. I'm sorry I grabbed the phone from you a little bit earlier. We already know tonight's trivia winner, Mike Myrna. We're going to go to a commercial break. Keep sharing the show if you're on Facebook or on YouTube.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
I got so excited when Susie came in there with the phone. I did the trivia contest before the commercial, but you know who it is now. It's Gary Semix. Mike Myrna was the winner, and congratulations to Mike. This week in MX history, believe it or not, 7-time AMA Supercross champion Jeremy McGrath officially announces his retirement from professional racing at Anaheim Opener press conference at the Diamond Club of what was then the Edison International Field. McGrath switched to KTM, and he had ridden that bike for the first 2 races overseas for the AMA and FIM World Supercross rounds in Switzerland and the Netherlands. In December, he finished 5th and 7th. After returning to the States, he decided that professional racing was no longer for him, and he hung up his, well, we used to say hung up his leathers, but he didn't have leathers back then. but he did hang up his helmet. And when he retired, he had retired with 7 AMA Supercross titles and 72 main event wins. In 2003, Jeremy McGrath calls it a day and retired at that time. In 1986, the AMA's controversial production rule goes into effect, ending the era of works bikes in the AMA Supercross and Motocross. The rule was brought about in order to curb the costs of professional racing and bring more parity between the manufacturers. Now, Kawasaki's Jeff Ward was a defending AMA Supercross champion, but in '86, the season was nevertheless to be dominated by Honda with Ricky Johnson, David Bailey, Johnny O'Mara, and Mickey Diamond. 35 years later, the rule still is in effect, and I think it was the most horrible choice ever made by the AMA. Having works bikes out there was one of the best things and one of the best experiences we had back in those days. And I can only imagine what some of the technology and where would it have gone had they not brought that rule up in the 1986 season. Not a fan of it. And I think I was speaking to David Dewhurst about it on the show just a few weeks ago on my radio show, and we talked about it there. If you want to hear more about his opinion on it, go over to listen to the David Dewhurst interview at Vintage Motocross Radio. Not a fan of the production rule, but such is life. In the announcements tonight, Vintage Motocross Radio last Sunday, as you've heard several times by now, my guest was Gary Semix. Let's take a listen to some of what Gary had to say.
At that race in Austria, I was really fast on that track on my bike. I got the whole shot and was leading the first moto for a long time, and then got passed by a couple guys, but still was running up front. And then when Graham Noyce and Andre Malherbe came up behind me, they couldn't pass me, and they were on their works bikes. I'm probably in 4th or 5th place by this time, and I didn't know it, but Japan was wondering what the heck's going on, so they sent another guy over here with more horsepower from Japan to see what was going on. Well, he's out on the track with a chalkboard telling me to let Graham pass, move over. And he wasn't even in the mechanics area. I don't know how he was out on this part of the track. I'd see him at the end of the straightaway. Guy's out standing out there with his chalkboard. But I never even looked at the chalkboard because I figured, well, I'm not going to pay attention to him. And after that moto, he sent one of his guys down to my pit area to find out why I didn't let them move over. And he threatened to take all my bikes and parts away from Honda of Germany.
This is in '82 yet, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, '82.
Okay. So you don't let Noyce by, you don't let Malher by either.
No. Well, Malher finally passed me.
Okay.
But this guy was irate. He was so mad. He wanted to know who I was and why I didn't move him over. And then when he found out I had support from Honda Germany, he wanted to take that away. Well, long story short, that week I get a call from him, and I got to go into Honda of Belgium where they were stationed, and he's gonna talk to me. I don't know what he's gonna talk to me about. But in the meantime, DeCoster got through to him, and DeCoster pulled more weight than him and said, I get a works bike. So when I went in there, it was real nice and explained to me that I get this works bikes and parts now. But I had to have the understanding that if Malherbe or Noyce come up behind me, I have to let them by. I can't hold them up and race with them. But I said, if I'm out in front and I don't, they're not catching me, I don't have to wait for them, do I? And he said, no. So I was okay with that.
Oh, okay.
That's how I ended up getting the works bike.
Great story from Gary Semix. He was a lot of fun to talk to and shared a lot of great stories that you wouldn't normally be able to hear. This Sunday, 11 o'clock, my guest will be Steve Stackable, a guy we don't hear a whole lot from, but I want to thank Steve Stackable in advance for joining me this Sunday. That'll be at 11 a.m. on Vintage Motocross Radio. It's with a heavy heart that I have to announce that we lost Tom Corley just Monday. Tom was a fixture in Southern California motocross for decades. Very respected, loved by everyone at the races. Such a great photographer. Originally a Northern California guy, went down to Southern California many years ago, became a photographer there, and was not only just a photographer for races, He was a photographer by profession, and he was an absolutely excellent one. Anybody who's been down there for any of the speedway races, motocross at Glen Helen, Pala, all of them, even the vintage races, Tom was always out there. And after a short illness, he did pass away on Monday. I want to extend my condolences to Tom's friend and family. The Pacific Northwest has an updated list of the races that they're going to have. They added another 3 races to their series this year. It starts on March 20th, goes right through next September 25th. There's some races in there that are also mixed with ARMA and a few other clubs. They are not points races, but it's going to be fun to get back up there in the Pacific Northwest. Go on Facebook to check out their schedule, and I'm sure they have a website as well. Pacific Northwest Vintage Motocross is coming back. Oh, and some great artwork was done by Jim Koch, a fabulous artist. He did a lot of the work for the Pacific Northwest, and he's done a lot of things for a lot of other people too. Jim Koch's a great artist and illustrator, and I just wanted to mention that he's on Instagram and does a great job. Vintage Motocross Q&A T-shirts are still available for just $21.99. Follow the link in the show description. You can get one delivered to your door while they last. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. Please inbox me. I'll get you a proposal, and we're going to put something together for you that I'm sure you could be happy with. Now, last week, and you've often heard me say it, how many people we reached? We reached 18,000. We reached 22,000. Last week, in 7 days, we reached over 43,000 people. There is no Facebook page that you could create. There's not much you could do to reach 43,000 people for your business. I strongly advise you get a hold of me. We'll get your name up on the board here. We'll make a little commercial for you. We'll talk about your products. Inbox me. I'll send you a proposal for the show. We'll put something together for you. Do it as soon as you can. Everybody's seeing benefits from this. You can too. Well, that's it for our show for this evening. I want to thank you all for joining us in the new year. Jordan and Chelsea, thanks for helping out. Susie, of course, congratulations to Mike Myrna for being tonight's trivia contest winner. So don't forget to join me on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock when my guest is Steve Stackable. Also keep an eye out on the page for the expansion chamber videos that we'll be looking for you to send in. And in the next couple of weeks, we're also going to have that new segment, Garage Tour. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Gino? I don't think he's Gino!